Have you got a juicy idea for a new offer and you want to get it out to market as quickly as possible? Well, I'm going to encourage you to hold your horses for just a moment. How would it feel if you could actually release your new offer out to market already knowing that your audience will love it? You've got great messaging behind it, and it's going to make sales. That's the difference between launching a validated offer versus launching a cold offer. And in this episode of the Heart-Centered Business Podcast, I'm going to walk you through how to validate your new offer so that when you release it to market, you can be confident that it's going to sell. This is episode number 416 of the Heart-Centered Business Podcast, which means you can find all the relevant links and the show notes for today's episode over at tashcorbin.com/416. Let's get validating, shall we? I'm Tash Corbin, and this is the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. Okay, so before we go into the detail of the strategy in today's episode, I want to acknowledge that really at the end of the day, the only way to truly validate whether someone will buy your offer or not is to offer it to them and have them buy it or not buy it, right? Ultimately, you can have as many people as you want say that the offer is great and they love it and they would definitely buy it. But if you've launched offers in the past, having had people say they definitely would buy something like that, you've probably also experienced the frustration of those very same people not buying it. So ultimately, true validation comes when people buy it. But number one, there are different ways to make that offer strategically so that you can validate whether the offer is going to sell more broadly. And number two, we can get partial validation in other ways to give confidence that when we do finally release the offer to market, that people will buy it. And we can get that confidence first before we actually release the product. So in this podcast episode, number one, I'm going to talk about the different ways to validate by making sales. And then number two, I'm going to talk about getting partial validation in other ways so that you can increase your confidence that people are going to buy your offer when it is finally released. So first and foremost, let's talk about validating via making actual sales. And in that instance, it's going to be far more valuable to you that your first time making that offer is done one-to-one rather than one-to-many. So when I'm releasing a new product or service, if I want to validate that via making sales, I will first and foremost find ways to make the offer one-on-one first. So that might be through doing market research, interviews, or asking people if they would be interested in having a conversation about a potential offer, or reaching out to people within my audience who I think will be interested in the offer, letting them know a few details and then asking them if they want to jump on a quick call to discuss it. So there's lots of different ways that you can have that one-to-one offer versus a one-to-many offer at first. But the reason why I think that that's so much more valuable is because you're able to have that feedback loop. So first and foremost, I don't pitch my offer to someone unless I have qualified, i.e. asked lots of questions and know that they are a good fit for that offer, that I think that that offer will be valuable for them and they fit within that niche that that offer is going to actually work for, and that they are actually interested in hearing about an offer, i.e. a paid thing that they can invest in to achieve the goal that they're looking for. So I do lots and lots of qualifying at first when I'm making offers one-to-one. I'm asking plenty of questions to start out with. But then if we do think it's a good fit and then I make the offer to them and they decide not to purchase, I get a feedback from that person about why. So I can ask questions, and they will often also volunteer a reason why it might not be a fit for them. Oh, I don't have capacity for that right now. That's not my highest priority. My highest priority is X instead. Or, yep, this is a great idea and I'm really keen on this, but I can't do this until I've done this other thing. Or I don't have the budget for this right now. So I'm getting feedback from them as to why they might not be purchasing that offer. And I can ask a few follow-up questions. And also often it leads to a follow-up loop. So in a lot of cases, when I do it one-on-one, if it's a no, it's usually just a not yet. So they'll say, look, yes, I do think this would be really helpful for me, but I've got to do something else first, or I need to make some sales first, or I don't have the budget for it, or I need to hire someone first, or they've got something else that needs to happen first, or it's just not a good time for them because they're quite busy at that point in time. So if that's the case, and I always validate people's reasons, I don't ever argue with people's reasons. Their truth is their truth. Their situation is their situation. I'm not interested in arguing their current lived experience with them. But I might say, would you like me to follow up with you in a couple of months and see how it's going? And if they have genuinely felt that that was a good fit for them, they will often say yes to that. And so I follow up with them later down the track. So whilst it might not be not right now, I am getting lots of hot leads for that offer into the future. So I do love to validate via making sales, but when I'm validating via making sales, especially if it's anything more than about a $300 to $400 purchase, I will do that with one-on-one conversations. If I'm not doing it one-on-one, if I'm doing it one-to-many, I still do some qualifying. So I might do that qualifying, i.e. asking questions through running a survey. And so I do that survey, and then if anyone in their answers to the survey questions, it gives me an indication that they are indeed a hot lead for that offer and they are a qualified lead. I will often in the survey say, if you'd like me to contact you about an upcoming offer that may be able to support you with this, the price point is expected to be XYZ, tick this box. Then if they've ticked the box, I will let them know about the offer. So therefore, they're still a qualified lead. And because they've filled in the survey, I've got some detail, I've got some insight into why I think it's a good fit for them. And I can incorporate that into the way that I talk about the offer with them. Now, if you have a super big audience or you've got very high demand for the offer, you can absolutely take it straight to market, and that will validate that offer via the sales of that offer. It is a higher risk strategy, but it's less work. So is a little bit more work in setting up a survey or doing the one-to-one calls first, but it's far lower risk and far more market insight and far more messaging insight comes from doing it in a one-to-one way or with some qualification first. But if you have limited time and you have either a big audience or you have a small audience, but they are asking you, begging you, asking you that they want you to create this thing, they want you to offer this thing, then you might decide that it's worth taking that bigger risk to go straight to market. Now, an example of where I have done this is with my IPP retreat. So the IPP is the Imperfect Post Project. And it is a process that I have only previously offered as part of my programs. So I ran the first Imperfect Post project in the Takeoff program in 2023 to resounding success and amazing feedback. I ran it again in early 2024 for people who purchased my Heart Centered Business Planner to resounding success and amazing feedback. And people who've done it through one of those programs or have heard about other people doing it have been begging me, asking me, pleading me, can we do this? But could we just all do it in like 3 or 4 days on a retreat so it's all done in one go? And so I have had, I would say, more than a dozen people who've asked me for that retreat. And at this point in time, I don't have a lot of capacity to do the one-to-one feedback loop, the one-to-one calls. I'm not really keen to set up a survey about it at this point in time. I'll probably do a survey about it later on in the year. But I thought, well, I know when I want to do the retreats. I've got space for the retreats in 2025. Why don't I just stick them out to market and see if there's any interest? And I can tell you that those people who begged me to run that retreat have absolutely signed up to have conversations about it or paid their deposit straight away. And so I already knew it was a big risk for me to do that, but I already knew that there were a lot of people interested. And I even have people who want to be on a follow-up list who can't commit to it right now, but as spaces dwindle, they want me to let them know, and they've registered in for that as well. So even though I've gone straight to market, you can see that it's not all or nothing. It's not buy it or don't buy it. It's buy it or let me know you're interested in buying it. And so those people who are interested in buying it but can't commit right now are in the follow-up list, and I can follow up with them and let them know as spaces become more limited, and they can make a decision a little bit closer to the time. So even then, I've got a little backup. You can see that, right? So you can validate via making sales either one-on-one or with some kind of qualifying before, one-to-many, or straight to market. See, there's different layers to that. Now I want to talk about partial validation, because this is something that we do very well inside my Leverage and Launch program and my accelerator as well. I've got some VIP stories. I'll share one VIP story that I think is such a powerful story. I haven't asked for permission to share that story, so I'll do it vaguely, but where you can see that getting some partial validation can sometimes be the best thing to do before you put an offer out to market. Even if it means delaying making sales for a little while, it makes a huge difference to the effectiveness of that launch to market. So the two key ways that I would ascertain partial validation of an offer would be to do some kind of market research survey. Now, as you heard when I talked about validating via sales, there are two different types of market research sale that I do. There's can I get partial validation for developing an offer, which is my partial validation market research survey, or there's I'm pretty sure I've got the offer nailed. I just want to do some qualifying of hot leads before making the offer directly to individuals on a one-to-one basis. And that would be my validated via sales market research. So there's two different approaches, but it looks like the same strategy on the outside, I would say. So a market research or survey, I did this before I launched the Leverage and Launch program, actually, and a previous version of it, which was called Get With the Program. And so what I did was I put a survey out to my audience and I asked 4 questions about creating online courses. And so I said, what is your number one reason for wanting to create and launch online courses or leveraged offers in your business? What's the biggest barrier that's getting in your way? If I was to create a program that walked you through that process and helped you to get your product out to market and make sales, what would you want it to cover? And do you have any questions for me about creating and launching online courses and leverage programs? And so when I did it for Get With the Program, I was testing to see, do I have any interest in me teaching this? And it was a resounding success. I had 100 and something people fill in that survey. I also, in that survey, also asked, if the program was priced at between $200 and $500, would you feel it was a reasonable price point to learn this process? And so I got quite a lot of insight into the price sensitivity of my market. And also because I asked why, what needed to be included for people to see it as valuable. So when I ask pricing information, I'm not asking that in order for my audience to dictate what the price is that I charge for that offer. I know how to price my offers in a way that I think is a fair exchange for the energy that I'm putting into it, but it's a fair exchange for the transformation that people are experiencing as well. So I will go through and calculate what is the return on investment that people will make from completing this process. And then I price my offer at like 10% of that. So if it's reasonable for people to make $10,000 out of something that I've created, and I am confident that 80% of people will make $10,000, I will generally price that offer at around the $1,000 mark at full price. So I feel super confident. Now, I've got other content coming out in the future about pricing offers and validating the return on investment, that kind of thing. We'll get into that. I do a lot of that inside the Leverage and Launch program as well. But I don't ask questions of my audience about pricing for them to tell me what a reasonable price is for this product, because everyone will always underestimate a reasonable price in most cases. And so rather than having everyone's underestimated price point, because everyone wants a bargain, right? I ask the question through a certain lens so that I'm getting price sensitivity information. So, and value information as well. So a great example of this, and I won't go too far in this little sidebar story, but I think it's a really good one, was when COVID happened, I was in the midst of a launch of the Takeoff program. And I decided to abandon that launch because there was a lot of uncertainty. And it was the number one piece of feedback that I was getting from people who were very interested in the Takeoff program was saying, well, investing in a high-touch, long-term mentorship program with you is something I'm not able to do right now because I don't know if I'm going to have to go and get a job. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep my part-time job, or I don't know what my husband's job is going to look like. And therefore, I don't know whether I'm going to have the space to be able to do this myself. So the problem that people had with the Takeoff program was not necessarily spending the money on the Takeoff program. It was committing to a long-term mentorship arrangement. So I decided to abandon the launch of the Takeoff program for a little while and do a boot camp. And that was a 5-day event to help people pivot and make sales quickly. So it was for people who maybe had in-person businesses, they need to pivot and make online sales quickly. Or people who were selling, say, high-ticket products and services, and their audience had a lot of price sensitivity and uncertainty in COVID, so they needed to pivot and make some money quickly in their business. And so I did some validation at first and a little bit of research on that. And I had said in that validation and in that research that for the price of the bootcamp would likely be around $200. And I had about 200, 300 people comment and give me feedback. I asked a bunch of questions and said, this is what I'm thinking of doing, and I think it'll be about $200. Let me know your thoughts on a few posts around social media. And the majority of people said, I would not pay $200 for a large-scale group program because, and they gave me a few reasons, because I wouldn't feel like I'm getting enough feedback from you, because I don't feel like you'd be able to give me enough advice and guidance, because, that large of an audience or a group of people doing it, it doesn't feel like it's very personalized. It might not work for my business. That wasn't telling me I can't charge $200 for a group program. It was telling me if I'm going to charge $200 for a group program, these concerns need to be addressed. So I launched the 5-day business bootcamp. It was $195 and early bird and $295 full price. And I had over 200 people buy it the first time around. I relaunched it and did it a second time and I had another 200 people buy it. Now, most of the people who said they would not pay $200 for a large-scale group program purchased it at $195. But that's not because of I didn't do sneaky discounts or anything like that. I know a lot of people use those strategies, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. But they purchased it because they told me exactly why they were afraid of it being a large-scale group program. They thought that they weren't going to get enough feedback from me. So I addressed that. In the design of the program, I included feedback threads and I made a guarantee that everyone would get my feedback on their offers, and I provided that feedback. In the design of the process, it included live training calls, but also a private community where people could ask me questions. And I was doing Facebook Lives, going through and reading out people's pivot offers and then providing feedback on those pivot offers, but also providing general advice to everyone else. Well, if you're going to do something like this as well, make sure you address X, Y, and Z. I also provided structured marketing plans for everyone in that program. And I said, if that marketing strategy is not a fit for you, you'll be able to get my feedback on how to make it work for your strengths and skills. So you just let me know why something won't work for you and I will give you an alternative. So because I proactively addressed their concerns about why they didn't want to do a high number of people in the group program, they didn't want to join that, they bought it. So you can see there, when you ask pricing insights in a very strategic way, that's why I wanted to just kind of divert and have that conversation. It's not, a lot of people just go out there and they say, what would you pay for this? And then they take the lowest price that someone said. And you're actually like derailing your cash flow, and often you're underselling, undercharging, and you're devaluing that program because you are just jumping to the lowest possible price. And instead, what that tells you, if people like lowball you and tell you low prices when you have explained your process and explained your program, that often is actually just telling you haven't got your value proposition clear enough. And if they're not telling you why they would value it that way, or that would be the price point, then you're not actually getting any meaningful insight anyway. So circling back to this, when it comes to doing that market research survey, number one, you want to make sure that you're asking questions that are still going to do some qualification for you. And if you're doing it just to get that partial validation, like are people going to be interested in something like this, then make sure that you're asking questions that give you the insights into what they're going to value, what's important to them, what they need to achieve, what they're looking for. And then that's going to give you some really good messaging insight when you do eventually release it to market. Now, when you do release it to market, for the love of all things, make sure you tell every single person who filled in that survey about that product when it's ready, because if they've ticked the box to say, yes, I want you to tell me when it's ready, then please make sure that you do that. A lot of people don't, because they're like, oh, it's been too long, or, oh, they'll see it when I share it to my mailing list, or I don't want to bother them. And you're making up all these reasons about why you're not going to follow through on your promise and you're not going to do what you said you're going to do. So please do make sure that you do that. But the second way that I like to do that partial validation is by setting up a wait list. And this is the thing that I think we do so well in the Leverage and Launch program, and I do so well with my VIP clients. It has actually spawned a new product that I'm offering because it is so valuable as a business owner to know that you've got a hungry audience ready to buy something when you've got it to market. But when you do it well, it actually also increases the conversion rate of the final sales that you get when you first launch it. Because the way that you engage with your waitlist and the way that you get people on your waitlist is very important strategically. And I think a lot of people get people on waitlists in a haphazard way, and then they're not actually qualified, or they make their waitlist sign up so involved that they don't actually get all potential leads onto that waitlist. Or they get people on the wait list, then they ghost them for months and months and months, or weeks and weeks and weeks. And then they finally just say, here's the product, it's available. And they haven't actually nurtured that relationship or engaged with that wait list in a meaningful way that could actually increase their readiness to buy from you. So usually when I work with people, we're in the Leverage and Launch program, in my own waitlist, and also in VIP clients that I've worked with, usually what I see at a market level is that most waitlists convert at around 15 to 20%. So if you have 100 people signed up to the waitlist for something, 15 to 20 of those people will actually buy when you launch. So there are ways to increase conversion. There are certain circumstances when it's far higher. So an example of it being far higher was when I launched my first Udemy course, which was like $20 or $29 when I first launched it. and I had an 85% conversion rate from the waitlist, but that's because it was super low ticket and I did a very good job in the lead up to launching that as well. And it was a very, very hot audience that were on the waitlist for that course. So that would be an example of where you see super high conversion rates. But generally speaking, we're looking at about a 15 to 20% conversion rate. If you promote your waitlist really well and you cannot get people to register for the waitlist for whatever that offer is, that tells you immediately there are some issues with the offer. And that is powerful and helpful insight. But now you can sort that out before you launch it. It's better to launch a waitlist and get low registrations than to launch a product straight to market and make no sales. Or if it's a group course or a membership or something like that, even worse, I've seen is when people launch it straight out to market and they get one sale of a group program or two sales of a membership. And so now for $29 a month for two sales, so they've got $58 a month coming in and they're running 4 calls a month for just 2 people. And so having a wait list, especially for group offers, can be a huge differentiator between a launch that is successful and it's validated and you know that you've got confidence in the numbers that you're going to get in the first launch versus you have no idea. Now, a VIP client example I have of this was I have a VIP client who was thinking about releasing train the trainer offerings. So she teaches a certain modality and she was thinking about teaching some of her students to teach the modality, if that makes sense. So I'll pretend it's yoga, but it's not yoga. So let's say she teaches a certain style of yoga to a bunch of people, and she has hundreds of people who've learned this style of yoga from her. And she was thinking about teaching people how to teach that style of yoga to other yoga instructors, right? The train the trainer model. She was considering moving into this in her area of expertise, but it would be like a $10,000 offer. And she wanted to make sure for the first time that she taught it, she would need a minimum of around 4 to 6 people. And I asked her before she was just going to go straight to market with this offer. And I just said to her, look, do you have a lot of confidence that people would be willing to pay $10,000 for this particular offer to, learn how to be a trainer from you? Or is it just sort of whispers? And she's like, it's sort of just whispers. And I said, well, if we launch it straight to market and you had one person buy it, would you want to go ahead with it? She's like, well, I would, but I'd be quite disappointed. I'd go ahead with it because I want to honor it, but really I need 4 people. Because then we can do some group sessions and things like that in the teacher training, which would be far more valuable. I was like, okay, let's set up a wait list first. So this was for a $10,000 offer. On the waitlist sign up page, it said it's likely to be $10,000. And she sent one email to her mailing list of people who'd done this other training with her before. And from that one email, she had 46 hot leads register for this teacher training. Now, I want you to think about the different energy that comes to launching that offer with, I've just got whispers and I've got an inkling, versus there are 46 people waiting for me to launch this. Think about the energy and attention that goes into that launch. Think about the speed with which that sales page went up, because it did. It went up so fast once we had those people on the wait list. And we haven't even finished promoting the wait list. And we're still working on this together. And she's already had the first 2 people sign up for it for next year. And it is by all measures a very successful opening of this offer. And it's likely that she will sell out her first teacher training. And it's really exciting at a $10,000 offer, right? So this is huge, but Do I think the same level of energy, enthusiasm, and focus would have been applied to this offer if she'd done it through the lens of, I think some people might be interested, versus knowing there are 46 people on the wait list? Right? So this is where having a really well executed wait list and nurturing that wait list effectively and presenting your offer to that waitlist really effectively comes into play. Now, there's also one other thing that I do when I set up a waitlist that I think makes a huge difference to my waitlist conversion rate. And that is whenever someone joins the waitlist for a new offer, I immediately ask them a question. And what that does is it actually engages them in telling me like what it is that they want out of the offer. Like they've signed up for the waitlist of it. So they're clearly interested. They know what the price point is because we always put the price point on the sign up page for the waitlist. And they've signed up for it. They've given me something very precious to them, their private email address. So as soon as they've signed up for it, I ask them a question so that I'm ascertaining, well, what is it that they want? Or I'm asking them, what's their main reason for wanting to sign up for this? Or what would they want to get out of it, right? I ask a different question depending on what the offer is and depending on the price point, but I ask them a question. So now the waitlist are actively involved in helping to shape that offer to be something that they want. Something that they're hungry to sign up for, something that delivers for them. So that's very, very powerful. Whew. What a deep and thorough episode on validating your new offer. So a quick recap for you. There are two core categories of validation. The first and only true validation is getting people to purchase from you, validating via sales. You can do that one-to-one. You can do that one-to-many with some qualifying before, or you can do it one-to-many straight to audience. The second category of validation is partial validation. And the two strategies that I talked through today are doing market research through surveys or setting up your waitlist. Now, if you are itching to set up your waitlist for your new offer now, because you can see how valuable it would be for your motivation, but also getting insights into what it is that your waitlist actually want and having your audience actively help you craft something that's going to be a no-brainer for them to buy and they're absolutely going to purchase from you. And also you want to avoid the traps of undercharging and low pricing your offer when you first release it to market, then I have a beautiful, amazing, exciting new offer that I want to share with you. And that is the waitlist kit. I have developed a kit that's going to help you set up, promote and validate your waitlist and get them on board with helping to shape your offer so that when you go to market, you have an in-demand offer, a hungry waitlist ready to buy, and you know that you're going to make sales straight out of the gate. Now, I am launching this at a ridiculously affordable launch price, but here's the kicker. Only for the waitlist. It's a waitlist for the waitlist kit. So make sure that you head over to tashcorbin.com/416 as soon as possible, because the sooner you go and jump on the waitlist, the sooner you are going to lock in the amazing waitlist offer that I have for the waitlist kit. Now, I'm talking about under $100 for our first launch, and it includes step-by-step training on how to set up your waitlist, some of the market research insights, and more. And you'll be able to find out all about that over at tashcorbin.com/416. Now, if you're listening to this podcast episode months and months after it's released, fear not. If you go and find the link to the waitlist kit at tashcorbin.com/416, something that we do with the podcast episodes is we always make sure that the link in the show notes is the most up to date and the current best offer. So if you want to grab the waitlist kit at the current best price, all you need to do is go to tashcorbin.com/416 and that will be linked there for you. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Heart Centered Business Podcast. Until next time, I cannot wait to see you shine. Bye for now. Would you like more tips, tools, and resources to help you grow your heart-centered business? Head to tashcorbin.com today.